What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Thursday Night Football pre-lock show here on RotoGrinders YouTube. We're going to walk you through this game tonight and, a little showdown stuff as the NFL is winding down. And, we just had our little Christmas last week. The upcoming weekend, it'll be New Year's, so we're full swing of the holiday season. I guess since the full swing of the holiday season, I guess Kyle got a little, got a little lancy there. Couldn't quite make it for the show. But, man, look what we got. We got a big surprise here. We got Stevie, PFL, joining us here for the first time this year on one of the Showdown shows. Stevie, how you doing, man?
Doing good, man. I mean, we're getting old. We got all these new bucks, coming on these shows with us all the time. But we've been doing this for a while now, Chop.
Yeah, these younger guys don't know how to grind it out, man. And they get a little soft around the holiday season, but this is what it's all about. So, you guys know the routine here. We like to answer questions. That's all we want to do. I don't want to sit here and go player by player and do all that. I want to answer questions. So, if you got questions on this game tonight, fire them off. We'll talk about them. We'll talk about the game. We'll talk about college football. We'll talk about basketball. Whatever you want to talk about. Get it in chat, but we are a pre-lock show, so preferably we stick to the showdown. But it was whatever you want, whatever you guys want to do, but that's what we're going to do. But we're going to take care of a little business here first. We got the Jets and the Browns is the game tonight. It is currently Cleveland -7. Dropped down the total all the way to 33.5 for tonight's game. You have any leans on that thing, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, no real leans as far as money line bets or anything like that, but I think Cleveland wins the game. I think the Jets defense is really good. So it's tough. I mean, Flacco getting pressured by this Jets defense, I could see, the Jets covering the 7-point spread. I think it's kind of right where it should be. So I don't have a lean either way. There's some player props that I bet earlier today. But overall, as far as just looking at the game, I think it's probably pretty close to a 7-point game. Could go either way.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I feel like this might be a game where we bring Flacco a little bit back to reality. Now, this is a tough defense. This ain't no joke, so I like that. Let's look at some inactives here and see if this moves the needle. Let's start off with the Jets. Lazard inactive again. Of course, Aaron Rodgers not going to make it back here. It doesn't look like this year. Zach Wilson inactive. Anything on the Jets side that moves the needle for you? I saw the name Bryce Hall inactive. That's not Breece Hall, though. That's Bryce Hall. So pretty close. But any of that stuff move the needle for you?
Nah, I mean Cooper on Cleveland, but nothing on the Jets.
Yeah, on the Cleveland side, not a whole lot except for Amari Cooper, who looked like he was going to be in about 2.5 hours ago. Then all of a sudden we got the news he's out. Amari Cooper being out here, how does that change things for you?
I think it changes a lot. I mean, it obviously, I think, makes Njoku more interesting for captain spot. I think it bumps up Tillman. Tillman was already on the field a lot the last couple of weeks. He was someone that I was already looking at playing. Now he's going to be chalkier, but I mean, he definitely kind of makes the lineups fit. But I think it's an interesting slate as far as defenses for Showdown because I hate playing defenses in Showdown, and both defenses are going to be kind of popular here. So I think overall, you're looking at Tillman and Njoku more, and then maybe even getting a little bit of exposure to Elijah Moore, who seems to be the biggest bump as far as projections go.
Yeah, I have to say I was a tad bit disappointed Amari got ruled out. I wasn't on Amari in the first place. I was going to be severely underweight on him.
Same.
And then I kind of like some of the other guys for Cleveland pass catching as far as making up for him already. And now we don't get that luxury of having the whole field. A lot of the field would have chased that monster game last week. And now we don't get that luxury. Now everybody gets bailed out because he gets out. So I'm not a big fan of that. I wish that wouldn't happen, but it is what it is, man, and we'll make the most of it. All right, we got about 28 minutes till lock. So in about 15 minutes, roughly, we'll get our plums. Feel it in the plums play of the night, man. That's what we do here. So we're going to do that. In the meantime, we're going to try to answer some questions. So if you have any questions, get it off in chat. I'll keep track of it all, and we'll get to it. I guarantee you we'll answer your question before this thing is up. I'll start off with Brian Berg out there. FanDuel lineup. Both running backs, both defenses and Njoku. Thoughts with Hall at captain. So he's got Hall at captain. He's thinking both running backs, both defenses, and Njoku. What do you think about that?
I think it's unique. I don't know if it's going to be optimal or even close to optimal. I mean, I don't think. I mean, what are you hoping for? You're hoping for, the running backs to get all the production in the game and any touchdowns that are scored, and you're hoping the defenses crush and Njoku gets all of the looks for Cleveland. So I guess I could see that. I don't necessarily love the idea of playing both defenses and both running backs together. I think I'd side with playing like a running back and a defense together, but I just it's so hard for me to click chalky defenses on a showdown. Like I want this game to go over the 33-point total and get some production, but I want to be underweight on these like chalky defenses.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting for sure. All right. Crazy Casper, how many picks does each quarterback throw?
I mean, this is why the defenses are chalky, right? We're going to see both of these quarterbacks get pressured at a high rate in this game. Trevor Siemian is not great, and he's going to probably throw 2, and I'll give Flacco 3 interceptions in this game. I think that we're just overlooking how tough this defense is for Flacco to face. He's had some cake matchups here, Chop. He's at Houston, he's at Jacksonville, he's had the Rams. Chicago was a game he still threw for 274, but he threw 3 picks in that game. He had a 77 passer rating. Like, that was his tough game, but I mean, he still got the job done. But he's going to get sacked a lot in this game, and he's going to throw some picks.
Yeah, I definitely think that that's going to happen. If you think he's going to throw picks, Prize Picks got him at 1.5 interception. It's kind of actually fairly high for a quarterback. Usually you don't see it like that, but for a pick. But that's I think it's definitely in play tonight. JW SimLabs not working for anyone else. I just ran right before we got on the show, probably 10 minutes ago, and it was working fine for me. So I don't know if anybody else can. Okay, we got 2 guys not working for me. Well, we'll get a note to Jamino, and maybe he's updating some stuff, and we'll get on that. But speaking of SimLabs, let's talk about the SimLabs real quick. I'm gonna do a quick little read for you on SimLabs. Use the SimLabs to generate DFS lineups through the power of simulation. Combines data, every aspect of the slate to churn out lineups that match your preferences. It just takes a few clicks to grab a bunch of lineups there that are well built, correlated, or however else you want them to play out. Showdown, full slates, whatever. We got it all right now. So I think it's interesting. Obviously, you guys say it's not working. Let me go there real quick and just double check to make sure. Maybe you don't have a setting that's wrong, because like I said, it was working for me here roughly.
If you go back to yesterday's date, it will work. If you switch the date to the 27th, it'll work.
I mean, okay.
But it's not like if you just click on it right now and on the 28th date, it's not working for some. I'm guessing that they're updating some projections or something for it. So if you go to the 27th, it'll work. But I posted
I just ran and it's working for me. Just put your contest field in, your results range, and
okay. So I had it up as well, and it was working perfect, and I reopened a new tab and it wasn't working. So make sure you have the date. So
yeah. I don't know. Just play around with it, guys. If it is down, I'm sure it is just something that they're performing some maintenance on real quick. So you can, it'll be updated before this thing locks up. Almost guaranteed. We got 23 more minutes. You'll be all right. All right. Carolina guy. He's our FanDuel guy here. He wants to know, in the FanDuel, Stevie, single entry and the large field, both contest types. For each one, what is your favorite MVP on FanDuel?
I think it's either Bryce Hall or Njoku. Those are the 2 guys that I'm looking at and kind of waiting for Lineup HQ to update as far as like projected ownership for MVP spots. But I think one of those 2 guys, I think Flacco is just going to be, he's projected as like the chalkiest captain play right now, or MVP play on FanDuel. So you could easily make it Flacco. I just hope that like all the production goes through Njoku at lower ownership. But Breece Hall is really interesting. The passing role that he had last week and that he's had recently is just so good that, I mean, it's hard for us not to have some interest in Breece Hall. But I think it's Njoku, Hall, or if you want to go chalky with Flacco, I don't hate it.
Yeah, interesting. I kind of agree with you for the most part, and that's FanDuel is just a different game than DK on showdowns. You got to adjust for it, man. It's just different. You gotta do make that up somehow. Well. I guess question / statement. Njoku, a 0.5 touchdown prop, or in the sports book, anytime touchdown. You like the Njoku touchdown tonight?
I've actually bet it the last 2 weeks. His red zone roll is really high right now. I think this is, the odds of it keeps coming, like juicing a little bit more and more. But if you like it, I'm not going to talk you off of it. His red zone roll is incredible. He has at least 8 targets in, I think, like 7 of the last 8 games. So it's hard not to like Njoku here. And Bryant's just kind of disappeared. So I think Njoku anytime touchdown prop is not crazy.
I don't want to give away too much before the Plums play tonight. I like to surprise the people, even though tonight is it's tough to pull stuff out here, man. In this game, it's tough. But I will say this much about Bryant. It seems like if there is going to be a game where he kind of sneaks into the end zone for a touchdown reception or 2, this is it. Like, this could be the game. No Amari. Maybe they focus a lot of attention on Njoku, two tight end sets, and Harrison Bryant leaks out of the back, or leaks out and off the line and grabs him a touchdown. I could see that happening. So, but Njoku, the touchdown prop, man, it's got to be up there tonight with this particular matchup. It's got to be up there. So, all right, let's keep on going here. Again, guys, we're about, I'd say, 5-7 minutes away from our Plums play of the night. In the meantime, while you guys are getting some questions, fire off those questions. While you're doing that, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go and look up some props for us, Stevie. Let's do a 6-player card. I need to get my balance working here, man, up on Prize Picks. So help me out with this one. Let's talk about passing yards tonight. Flacco, Simeon, we're roughly at 225 for Flacco. We're at 170.5 for Simeon. Does either one of those stand out as a more or a less that I can put on a card here?
I mean, I think it's hard not to have more than 225 for Flacco, even in this tough matchup. They're just throwing the ball at such an incredible rate. I mean, he's attempted at least 42 pass attempts in all 4 of his starts, and he's thrown for at least 254 yards. So I like that. I mean, I'm not touching any Simeon props unless, you want to take some interception props, but I don't even think they have those up over there on Prize Picks. So I think that Flacco more than 225 is where we start our card.
All right. Let me plug that one in there. All right. And you guys, I see some questions filtering in. I got you. I'm going to keep track of them. We're going to get there. All right. We did the passing, so let's see if we can correlate anything with receiving and see if it stands out to you. So if we got the Flacco over yards, which receiver for the Cleveland side, if any, would you pair with Flacco?
I think we could. I think there's 2 ways to do this. We could take Njoku's reception projection. It's more than 5.5, or we could take Tillman's more than 31.5 receiving yards. I think Tillman is going to be someone that they're going to try to get away from Sauce a little bit in this game and use his speed. And I think that Tillman is already on the field a ton. So I don't mind pairing it with Cedric Tillman or Njoku's reception prop.
Okay, I'm gonna go with the man. That's interesting. I'm gonna go Cedric Tillman. But you also, before we move on to the next category, I see another prop down. David Bell, 12.5. You're only 12.5 yards on David Bell. I seen him finally, like 2 weeks ago, for the first time in his NFL career, finally made a play with Flacco at quarterback. Is there any legs to David Bell at 12.5? Only 12. That's like 1 reception for this guy.
Yeah, I mean, that's 1 catch. I mean, we have to think that he is behind what? He's behind Tillman. He's behind Moore. He's behind Njoku. Do we think it's him? I guess like the thing that it worries me the most with Bell is like Marquise Goodwin's active for this game. Like, is Marquise Goodwin the guy that's gonna get a few extra snaps? So that one's tough for me.
Yeah, the only reason I think about guys like this on a night like tonight is I'm thinking the Jets with this duo of incredible cornerbacks. They're going to devote some attention to Elijah Moore. They have to. And then whoever else is out there, like if that's Tillman or whoever else they want to put out there out wide is going to get some treatment too. I think maybe David Bell or a guy like that sneaks in. I don't know. That's probably the only reason. TJ says part of his card is Breece Hall more than 31.5 receiving yards. Should we put that on our card?
I like his reception prop. It's at 4.5. I got
You think he's going to get 5 receptions?
Yeah. So if we look at it, like his recent games, I think he's done this in 4 of his last 5 games.
Oh, wow, he has.
So
I didn't even notice that.
5 of his last 6, he's had at least 5 receptions. I bet this on the Hard Rock Sports app earlier today. So I like his reception prop more than the yards. It's still, we got to remember that Cleveland defense at home is just incredible. So I think taking the reception prop and not worrying about the yards is how I would approach Breece Hall.
I like that. I didn't even realize the receptions were racking up for him so much, but they are. When I click on that, they're very much so in play. All right, we got
Simeon
4 guys.
Checked down to him so much last week too.
Yeah. We got 4 guys. We got Flacco. We're going to pair him with Tillman's receiving yards and Njoku's receptions. When we got Breece Hall on a run back with receptions, we need 2 more to round this thing out. Is there any rushing? Could we go more or less on any of the running back? Like, oh, you know what? I'm looking at Jerome Ford just now, 47.5 rushing yards. When I looked at this right before the show, it was 50.5. So they're already hitting the under on this. Can we go less on any rushing yards, or do you want to buck the trend and go over on Ford or a Kareem Hunt or anybody like that?
It was 51 earlier today. I took the under on 51 for Ford. So I still think under 47.5. Like, they just have kind of abandoned the run with Flacco at quarterback. So I don't mind going under the 47.5 here for Jerome Ford.
I like it too. That's what I would be on. Just neither one of them, Hunt or Ford, are doing much on the ground these days. So I like the under on that one. And it's a tough defense, like we've been saying. All right, we got 1 more to go. Is there anything else in the prop business on Prize Picks that you like? Field goals made, any particular individual guy you think is going to get sacks tonight? Those are really tough to come by. I don't like to mess around with that.
Let's go to Garrett Wilson's targets. They have it at 9 projected targets here. This is a guy that has double-digit targets in way more games than he doesn't. So let's go. Let's just hope the Jets keep chucking here, and let's take Garrett Wilson's over targets. It's at 9.
Doing it. Got it. Plugged in. 6 for 6. 6 for 6 here. Let's get that. I'm going to place my entry. We're good to go. All right, man. I like it. I like the way we correlate. I like to take some of the unders sometimes too on some of these games. If you go back and circle in things like this, rushing yards on either side, unders, things like that are really good. But we're at about 14 minutes. Before I start to answer some of these other questions, let's just go ahead and break out the Plums play of the night. Let's go ahead. I'm going to turn the floor over to you, Steve. I don't know if you know how this works, but your favorite player tonight, regardless of salary or whatever, however you want to frame it, it's up to you. Just whatever your favorite player is tonight, give it to us. Your Plums play of the night.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like going chalky, anybody that knows me. So I'm going to go way off the board here and say Jason Brownlee for the Jets. He played 82% of the snaps last week. This is the perfect opportunity to get a rookie like him involved over the last couple of weeks when they have really nothing to play for. So Jason Brownlee, I'm going to pucker up and play him here and hope that we get him on the field again for 80+%.
Man, you're digging that one. You're surely not giving us any chalk right there. I like it though. You never know. I also don't like the chalky stuff too much. And tonight, I think we're going to get a lot of concentrated chalk, just the Amari Cooper injury. And the Jets just don't have much anyway outside of Wilson and Breece Hall. So I think it's a lot of chalk. I'm going to buck the chalk. I'm going to try to win a GPP, man. That's what we're trying to do here. You got to be a little different. I've seen this guy do it. He doesn't do it very much, but when he does deliver touchdowns, they seem to come in bunches. I'm going to go with the aforementioned Harrison Bryant. I'm going to hope they devote some coverage to Njoku. I'm going to hope that Amari Cooper's absence opens some things up for him too, and that we get Harrison Bryant. I don't really want to mess with those New York Jets cornerbacks. I really don't want to mess with the Cleveland Browns secondary too much in the pass rush. I want to go something different. Harrison Bryant, maybe he usually has 1, maybe 2 big games a year. I'm hoping this is one of them, so I'm going Harrison Bryant, Plum split. Relative to salary and ownership, guys, obviously I could sit here and both me and Stevie could give you the Njoku, Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson pitch, but I wouldn't be doing you very much of a favor in the game. So you got your plums. We got about 12 minutes left. Let's see if we got some questions here, some stuff I saw earlier. Complete fade of Flacco on DraftKings. Steven wants to know.
I mean, I get the reason why. If you're fading Flacco, I feel like you're going to have to play Ford and some Jets defense. I mean, that's, I think, how you're going to correlate fading Flacco. I don't see why we would fade Flacco on this slate, just because like he could throw 3 picks and still get there, just because of the volume that he's attempting. So I get why you would do it as far as ownership. I like fading him in the captain spot to get different, but I think that it's really hard to fade him. If you're going to fade him, take shots on Jerome Ford. I built a contrarian Jerome Ford captain team that doesn't have Flacco, and that's how I would get different with that team.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like, I mean, what's the big upside in fading him? In a game like this, where we're going to have limited touchdown equity in the entire game? Like, you better have some good running backs if you're going to fade quarterbacks. And this running games really shouldn't open up that much. And so if there's like 3 total touchdowns in this game and 1 or 2 of them come from Flacco, you're kind of buried if you fade him. I don't like it too much, but if you're feeling it, go for it. All right. DK GPPs. Any interest in rostering both Cleveland running backs in the same roster?
I don't think so. Kareem Hunt is your goal line back. So, like, I would say if you're not going to play Ford, play Hunt and hope he scores 2 touchdowns. But Jerome Ford's going to get 3 to 7 targets in this game. So I don't see a ton of upside out of the running backs anyway against the Jets defense. And if you're playing both of them together, you're hoping that like Jerome Ford has like a 5 to 8 catch night and Kareem Hunt scores 2 touchdowns of the 4 touchdowns scored in the game.
Yeah, I agree with that take 100%. Here's a throwback to the basketball show earlier. We had a conversation. Derek wants to know for you, Stevie, because I already answered it earlier. What's your favorite Pop-Tart flavor?
Oh, is it like Wild Berry, the purple one?
Oh, you went off the board with that one, man.
Yeah, like the Wild Berry one. Oreo one's really good too, but the Wild Berry, gotta heat it up a little bit. That's my jam.
Okay, that's interesting. You definitely went contrarian on that one. I think the overwhelming consensus was brown sugar and cinnamon, but I like that. You can't go wrong with Pop-Tarts, period. Robbie, is this a prop show, DFS show? It is whatever you want to make it, man. We're just answering some questions. So if you guys, anything you want to talk about relative to DFS tonight, ask. We'll get it, man. Guaranteed, 100%. All right. Patterson, captain, Mr. Locke said, I guess it's a question. Patterson, captain. What do you think?
Who?
Patterson.
No, the kicker for Cleveland. I'm just kidding.
Kickers. Okay, that's a good question. Like we're talking about a low scoring. Like if there was ever a time, I don't recommend kicker and captain, but if there was ever a game that could be no touchdowns and a bunch of field goals, this could be it. Talk to me, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, are you building a Patterson Zerloin 2 defense team? Like, I just what are you trying to get at with Patterson at captain? I mean, like every once in a while we'll play a cheap captain play, and then like those are the games that we're like playing Justin Jefferson, trying to get those type of guys. But I mean, with Amari Cooper out, Garrett Wilson's the highest volume player on the slate, and you don't necessarily have to have a kicker in the captain spot to fit him in, because Amari Cooper being out has opened up some value as well. So I don't think I'd play Patterson at captain, but I do think that Patterson and Zerloin are both very much in play on this slate because I just don't expect a lot of scoring in this game.
I mean, so yeah, playing Patterson flex is fine. That's good. Patterson at captain, you better have your other 5 spots correlating in that lineup. Like you can't play Patterson at captain and take a bunch of skill players, a whole bunch of skill players.
Just really quick, wouldn't we rather play Zerloin at captain? Like with his leg, like he's a guy that can kick a couple like 50-yard field goals. Like he's a guy that can score like 15 to 20 points.
Yeah, but that goes to what I was going to say. Either way, but if you're going to play a kicker at captain, man, you better play probably the other kicker in a flex, and you better play the defenses, because you're hoping for a 9-6 game or no touchdowns at all. If you play a kicker at captain and somebody scores a touchdown, you're probably buried anyway, unless it's like
defensive touchdowns, maybe.
Even a defensive touchdown tonight will probably put that defense in the optimal if that's the only one. So you better hope for no touchdowns, and you just correlate your lineup if you're playing a kicker at captain. That's all. Otherwise, you're going to waste money. But thoughts on Conklin GPP on DraftKings?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily hate it. His price is really interesting. He's at least 6 targets in 4 straight games. Just doesn't score touchdowns. I don't think he has a touchdown on the season. So maybe they get him involved tonight and he finally scores a touchdown. But I mean, that's the problem with the Jets just in general this year. They haven't scored touchdowns. We didn't necessarily talk about it a ton, but like Lazard is out for this game and they really haven't been using Randall Cobb a lot. So maybe, Conklin gets more involved, but that's why I kind of like Brownlee. That's why I was talking about Brownlee earlier. He was a guy that was getting, some playing time already, and then he got hurt for a couple weeks, and he came back and he was on the field, I think 82% last week. So that's why I like Brownlee more than like Conklin on this game.
Well, speaking of Brownlee, quick question from Robbie. Do you like Brownlee over Gibson?
I mean, if we are just looking at like how much they were on the field, yes. If you're playing the Jets defense in like a captain spot, Gibson's not a terrible play to pair with the Jets defense because he does punt return. So if he gets a punt return touchdown here, you get a double touchdown there.
Man, couldn't agree more with a lot of it depends on what the rest of your roster looks like. You gotta have this stuff correlating in the showdowns. All right. Would you play Simeon at almost no ownership? I don't know what I define as no ownership. It is a showdown. Simeon if this was on that 13-game main slate on Sunday, this game, like I'm not playing Simeon. I'm probably not playing Flacco either, but we're on a showdown. What do you think about Simeon at lower ownership on a showdown?
I'm assuming they mean flex. He's not that low owned according to our projected ownership. Like he's going to have 35 to 45% ownership depending on the site you're playing on. So I don't necessarily hate it. I feel like we can kind of project where all his production is going to go and just get the skill players instead of paying $8,800 for him. So I don't necessarily hate Simeon, but he's not low owned. I mean, he's not a way to get different. Like I would hope that he'd get different. Like you're not fading him to play Flacco. I guess that would be the way you get different is playing Simeon over Flacco. I don't hate the idea of being different and playing both of these guys and hoping that we get like a 45 to 50 point game, which I think is very, very unlikely.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a defensive struggle. I think there's not a lot of offense, but a few weeks ago we did have what was it, New England and Pittsburgh or something? I thought that was going to be like 6-3 ugly, horrible, and like New England went out there and played well offensively. You just never know what's going to happen. So Simeon's fine. Just make sure he makes sense with whatever the rest of your roster is, man, and how you're putting it together. So we'll go with that. Joe Adamo says chocolate fudge Sunday Pop-Tart. You guys I don't even see these things in the store, man. I just see the basic stuff, but it sounds good. I don't know. Sounds good. Cohiba, fade both defenses. You talked about that a little earlier. Give me another quick rundown on fading or playing both defenses.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a way to get different on the slate. I think both defenses are going to have ownership. My main team on DraftKings for like some single entry stuff, I faded both defenses because, I mean, like both defenses should crush here. Chop, at the end of the day, both defenses should crush, but it is a short week. We're missing some tackles and stuff, so missing some cornerbacks. Short weeks, I feel like I'm more likely to fade a chalky defense than I am like if both these teams are playing on Sunday, these would be like two of my highest owned defenses on this. But with a showdown slate, chalky defenses just sound scary. So I like being underweight on the defenses. I also think that the Jets defense isn't getting as much love as the Cleveland defense, and I feel like they're gonna pick Flacco at least once or twice in this game.
The Jets are really good defense, and it just takes that one interception to go back to the house, and all of a sudden you've got to own the Jet. It'll be like that's the guy you have to own, or you're not going to cash. And the Jets could definitely be it. So I definitely agree with that. Which one was it? Wilson or Hall? Pick one on DK GPP.
Man, I think I would pick Wilson. Just because like his volume share and like target share is one of the highest in the NFL. We have one game to kind of look at with Simeon at quarterback full time, and he targeted Wilson 15 times. That was against Washington, but I mean we kind of saw where the production was going to go with Simeon. He was checking down the Hall and Wilson. I mean I think they're both stellar plays. I think I'd lean slightly in Wilson.
Richie Smalls, can you play Israel Anaconda? I think he meant Abaconda, but I like that nickname, Anaconda, man. Israel Abaconda. Brees Hall saw a bunch last week, and it's a short week. I do subscribe to that theory a lot, and this guy is a talented running back out of the University of Pittsburgh. I can see that. What do you think about the backup Jets running back here? Would you roster him on a roster?
I'd definitely play him before I played Dalvin Cook.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, sure. This slate is, pretty chalky on when you're looking at like 3 to 4 guys on your team where you're like, all right, I'm going to eat the chalk on a couple of these guys. How do I get different? And I mean, I don't hate that to get different, but yeah, how did he gets there by scoring a touchdown? So
yeah,
I think that's Showdown in a nutshell though.
Yeah, guys, we got a little bit less than 90 seconds here before we go. We talked about a lot of props. We hit on them. Don't forget about the RG props package. Stevie has a bunch of good stuff in there all the time. I look at it every day to see if I can't post some stuff. Player props is I don't want to say it's the wave of the future, but it's massive, man. It's fun. It's good. Get on RG props package. Guys, we got less than a minute now. That's gonna wrap us up, man. We appreciate Stevie joining us here tonight. There is a special Saturday Showdown show with the Cowboys and the Detroit Lions this week. So be on the lookout for that. And then, of course, the Sunday show. It's winding down, fellas. We appreciate you tuning in and asking all the questions. Good luck in all those GPPs. For Stevie, I was your host, Chop. Our producer, Steve, behind the scenes. Until Saturday, we're out of here.